All right, let me pick up on number 13, and hopefully I can get the rest of this done in one video. I was looking at 13 ahead of time, and I realized that, and you've already spent some time with it, so let me just talk about how I approach this. With what I read at 1 second being 100, the cannonball was 100 feet off the ground, I decided that I wanted to start plotting these points. I knew the maximum was at 6 seconds at 2:25. So I planned my x-axis for time, going up by ones, but I only marked every two. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I planned my y-axis for height going up by 20s. I tried to do it by 10s, but there wasn't enough room to get to that max height of 225. So I have the graph ready to go. I need to have some more points, and I look at what I'm asked to do, write an equation. So the first thing I'm going to do using a point in the vertex is plug it into vertex form. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So I'm plugging in the values for x, y, h, and k. 100 is equal to a times negative 5 squared plus 225. I'm going to subtract 225 from both sides. While I'm simplifying, taking 225 away from both sides would give me the negative 125 I just wrote down. Negative 5 squared is going to give me 25. 25 times a, divide both sides by 25, and I'm going to find out that the a is negative 125 divided by 25 is going to be negative 5. That's going to help me to write the equation using my h and k value. Y is going to be equal to negative 5 times x minus 6 squared plus 225. Now that I know the equation, I can use my equation in my calculator in the table function to answer the questions and complete my graph. So I'm going to go in and type my equation, negative 5 times the quantity x minus 6 squared plus 225. Take a look at the table. There it is with my my 1 and 100, just like I had started with. I'm actually going to plot where this starts. I'm seeing in my table that at 0 it was 45 feet in the air. And at 3 seconds I went up to 180, 3 and 180. And I don't need to plot all the points that I'm seeing in this, but at least I'm getting an idea of how this is acting so I can sketch it. There's that 180 again. It happened at 9 seconds, so the corresponding point over here. At 11 seconds, it was back to that 100 that we had talked about. And then in the table, I see that it comes down and actually is going to land somewhere between 12 and 13 seconds. At 12 seconds, it's back down to 45. At 13 seconds, it's in the negative, so it's somewhere between 12 and 13 seconds is when it hits the ground. I shouldn't continue that line because it's made a stop. It's an end point there. What time does the cannonball hit the ground? Between 12 and 13 seconds. I'm going to move on to the last problems, number 14. Looking at what I have, we've got to find the vertex. I can see the vertex is sitting at 3 and negative 1. This is a minimum. It's at the bottom of this parabola. This parabola opens up. The axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 3. I know that because the x value of the vertex defines that line of symmetry. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to look at the domain. The domain are the x values that make sense in this situation. In this case, it's going to be all real numbers. Everywhere I go on the x-axis, I will be able to find a corresponding y point. And that's because my parabola does go on in both directions. My range, on the other hand, is all y values that are greater than or equal to negative 1. The minimum y value it goes to is negative 1. For the equation, I'm going to have to grab a point on this graph. I'm going to use 4, 0, and then I'm going to employ the same method I did on the last page by solving and finding and using 4, 0 for xy, using 3, negative 1 for hk, and solving for the a value and write in vertex form. 0 equals a times 4 minus 3 squared minus 1. Y equals a times the quantity x minus h plus k, squared, there we go. 0 equals a times 1 squared minus 1. If I add 1 to both sides to get that out of there, I wind up with 1 equals 1 squared is 1, 1 equals a. There we go. The equation is 1 times x minus 3 squared plus k. I'm going to rewrite it just as, without the 1 sitting out in front for a, it's implied. Y equals the quantity x minus 3 squared plus k. In number 15, I don't see things marked. I'm going to grab the vertex, label it as 2, 4. There's my H and K. This is a maximum. It opens upwards. The axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 2. And the domain in this problem, I'm going to make the assumption that this parabola is going to go on and on. I say that because I don't know anything about the context of a problem here. I'm going to call the domain all real numbers. I'm going to call the range y is less than or equal to that maximum value of 4. My equation, let me use the point, interesting, I'm going to use 4, 0 again, x and y, and then I have my hk of 2, 4. I'll write the equation, y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. As I go through and simplify, 0 equals a times 2 squared plus 4. If I take 4 away from both sides, negative 4 equals 2 squared is 4, so 4a. If I divide both sides by 4, a is equal to negative 1. That goes right along with the fact that this parabola opens down. The equation is negative 1 times the quantity x minus our h value, which was 2 squared plus k. I'm going to get that 1 out of there and write it simpler. The opposite of the quantity, x minus 2 squared plus k. Oh, let me put a k value in there. 4. There you go. Last but not least, I think we got it. The vertex is sitting at negative 2 and positive 5. This is a maximum. The axis of symmetry is going to be x equals negative 2, that vertical line equation, x equals negative 2. The domain, again, is going to be all real numbers. This parabola goes on and on. All real numbers. The range is going to be y values less than or equal to 5. That's the maximum it gets to. Let me use the point 0, 1 to write my equation. Just want to remind you that even if you didn't use this point, you should still get the same a value I do. Y equals a times the quantity x minus h. In this case, it's 0 plus 2 squared plus 5, which is the k value. 1 equals a times 2 squared plus 5. If I take 5 away, negative 4 equals 4 times a. Divide both sides by 4. Again, I have a as negative 1. It goes along with the fact that my parabola opens down. Y equals negative 1 times x plus 2 squared plus 5. Y equals the opposite of the quantity x plus 2 squared plus 5. There you go. I'm going to remind you your test is on Thursday this week. If you have any missing assignments or late work to turn in, it's going to be due when you sit down to take your test. Good luck.